ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching. Today it's a very special show. I want to talk about the U.S. elections, and this week and the last 2 weeks has been very, very tense in terms of the two parties, Democratic and Republicans, going to the polls, and it was so tense. And uh, my governor, my governor just lost the election, in Maryland. He has been there since 2015. So I want to congratulate him. He was so industrious during the time of COVID. I saw how he worked so hard. He's a Republican, and I want to say, I was really feeling bad for this loss. We know the U.S. election always sways from one, either Republican or Democrat, according to the wave. This time around, most people expected more to sway towards the Republican. The right-wing media and the Republican politicians were predicting that it would be a red wave. So, but even though the red tsunami that was they were waiting didn't happen. So the midterm election failed to materialize. As the Democrats successfully defended and hold a Senate seat. Now we are still waiting on the House. Maybe the election's still gonna, we'll still have some numbers still coming in for the House. We don't know how it's gonna happen, but but the Democrats just took the Senate, and that is the big news for the governor. I know the Maryland governor, who has been there since 2015, Governor Hogan, just lost the election. So, and I want you to listen to him, then they will come back to the discussion.
In both the House and the Senate criticizing their leadership for failing to meet expectations, just as former President Trump teases a special announcement next week. Here with me now, a Republican governor who's led a blue state, Maryland, since 2015, Larry Hogan. Governor, thank you so much for joining me.
Good morning.
You've kind of been on an island, maybe a few others are with you, as a Republican warning against GOP extremism and specifically election denialism. How do you interpret the results?
Well, yeah, I've been talking about this for years, and it seemed as if I was the only one talking about it, but today there are a whole lot more people talking about it. And the way I would interpret it, look, this should have been a huge red wave. It should have been one of the biggest red waves we've ever had because, the President Biden's approval rating was so low, one of the lowest historically. More than 70% of the people thought the country was going in the wrong direction, and yet we still didn't perform. And I think common sense conservatives that focused on talking about issues people cared about, like the economy and crime and education, they did win. But people who tried to relitigate the 2020 election and focused on conspiracy theories and talked about things the voters didn't care about, they were almost universally rejected. And I think it's basically the third election in a row that Donald Trump has cost us the race. And it's like, 3 strikes, you're out.
Well, do you think that's true? Because we've heard that after 1 strike and 2 strikes, to keep your analogy going.
Well, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And Donald Trump, it kept saying, we're going to be winning so much, we'll get tired of winning. I'm tired of losing. I mean, that's all he's done.
So you don't think that this is just a blip and that Republicans will return to being, well, it's kind of still the party of Trump, but embracing the party of Trump? You think this time is different?
If you lose over and over again to what's really not that great of a team, you've got to reassess. Is it time to rebuild? And you have to go back and think, how do we have a more hopeful, positive vision? How do we appeal to a broader group of voters? Because in some cases we fired up the base, but we turned off wide swaths of swing voters, and it's why we didn't perform.
Former President Trump is teasing a very big announcement on Tuesday night.
Huge.
He could announce his 2024 bid to run for president again. What do you think will happen if he does?
Well, there's no question he's still the 800-pound gorilla, and it's still a battle. It's going to continue for the next 2 years. I would just say that we're 2 years out from the next election, and we're just trying to, the dust is settling from this one. I think it'd be a mistake. As I mentioned, Trump's cost us the last 3 elections, and I don't want to see it happen a fourth time.
Could he if he does announce, could he cost Republicans the runoff in Georgia?
No question about that. I mean, it's not as consequential now. We still would like to win Georgia, but we're not going to win back the Senate as a result, and that's Donald Trump's fault.
I have to ask you about something that he posted on his social media website, Truth Social. He used a racist comment to lash out at another potential 2024 competitor, your fellow Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin. He wrote, "Youngkin," separating his last name. Now that's an interesting take. Sounds Chinese, doesn't it? In Virginia, couldn't have won without me. Your wife and children are Korean Americans. You've made a point of fighting against Asian American hate as governor. What's your reaction to that?
Well, it was definitely distasteful and inappropriate, not only because I don't think my friend Glenn Youngkin deserved to be attacked like that, but it was also, it's Asian hate against a white governor, and making fun of Asians. And he didn't even have his nationalities right, because Young Kim would be Korean as opposed to Chinese. But it's just more of the same from Donald Trump, insults and attacks, and that's one of the reasons why the party's in such bad shape.
Yes, as you can see, it is very clear that the GOP lost the elections. You can hear from Governor Hogan. Larry Hogan has been the governor for Maryland, and I got to know him during the time of COVID. When in Maryland we lacked, back then we lacked even the kits, the COVID kits to use for, like gloves and all those things. He was the first governor to shut down America. The state of Maryland was shut down. Only the essential workers were still going to work. So he really did something strange. And now other states started following suit, Schools were closed in Maryland. Everything, he shut down everything. And he had to take a plane to go and look for masks. There was a shortage of masks, So, but as we can see, Trump played a part in the GOP losing for sure. But the GOP themselves also caused themselves this race, because the overturning of the Roe v. versus Wade, we all know the Roe v. versus Wade had a lot to do with costing the GOP as well. Not just repeating things that Donald Trump said about the last elections, but this Roe versus Wade played also a very huge part in the election, and Larry Hogan made it clear, Governor Larry made it clear that they are tired of losing, and it is really deplorable. And you see the GOP is losing now. This since 2001, they still lose the Senate, So now the question is, how about actually doing things to help benefit people? Because when you keep losing, you know that people need some different approach, right? Not just giving severe public criticism or hurling insult at President Biden, because President Biden is trying his best, Now, the people have to know, the Republicans have to know that they have to use a different approach, okay? I just love Larry Hogan for his hard work. My first knowledge of Larry Hogan was that time. I remember he took an airplane, fly overseas to get masks. Imagine, for the people of Maryland. So he is, I was surprised that he lost the election. This is just a surprise loss, and I wish him all the good luck. At that time, that is when I began my full respect for him, when he played that role during the COVID. He took an action, and, and it was very, very swift, So to me, he should teach the other Republicans how to get their legs on the ground when it comes to this, because, I respect the man. I respect him. He is a man of honesty and integrity. Because I live in Maryland before, so I know him there, and he has been so hardworking. It is very clear that the GOP has lost the House. But let's see. They lost the Senate, but let's see how the House goes. Okay, we'll see how the House goes.
In both the House.
We still would like to win Georgia, but we're not going to win back the Senate as a result, and that's Donald Trump's fault.
I have to ask you about something that he posted on his social media website, Truth Social. He used a racist comment to lash out at another potential 2024 competitor, your fellow Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin. He wrote, Youngkin, separating his last name. Now that's an interesting take. Sounds Chinese, doesn't it? In Virginia, couldn't have won without me. Your wife and children are Korean Americans. You've made a point of fighting against Asian American hate as governor. What's your reaction to that?
Well, it was definitely distasteful and inappropriate, not only because I don't think my friend Glenn Youngkin deserved to be attacked like that, but it was also, it's Asian hate against a white governor, and making fun of Asians. And he didn't even have his nationalities right, because Young Kim would be Korean as opposed to Chinese. But it's just more of the same from Donald Trump, insults and attacks, and that's one of the reasons why the party's in such bad shape.
Is it racist?
It is racist.
One Republican who had an unequivocally strong election night was another one of your fellow Republican governors, Ron DeSantis in Florida. A growing number of Republicans who feel similarly to you about Trump, saying we have to move ahead, are saying, well, maybe Ron DeSantis is our guy. Would he make a good president?
Well, he certainly had a great night the other night in Florida. It was a big win for Ron DeSantis. Florida is becoming more and more red as a result of, I think there's 600,000 new Republicans in Florida because it's kind of flight out of blue states into Florida. He did a great job picking up Hispanic voters in Miami and South Florida, which is kind of what we did in our last race. We won Hispanics, but it was a good night for him, and he's certainly one of the important voices for the party. It's
no secret that you are considering running in 2024. What is your status now? Will you run?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'll be heading down to Florida tomorrow with all my fellow governors. We're all going to talk about what happened, and we're going to welcome a couple of new governors. And then I'll be flying out. I'll do a thing with RJC. I'll be on a stage with Mike Pence and Mike Pompeo. And at the end of the month, I'm going to have a big thing in Annapolis, a summit. We're going to bring in people from all around the country, and we're going to have a big celebration of our 8 years of success. And we're going to take a look. I still have to do my day job until January 18th, and then
you can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah, that's true. I'll be freed up and unleashed.
And will you be unleashed towards a 2024 run?
I think there's probably, I've been saying since 2020 that we have to get back to a party that appeals to more people, that can win in tough places, like I've done in Maryland. And I think that lane is much wider now than it was a week ago.
One quick question before I let you go. Kevin McCarthy is working the phones. He wants to be Speaker if Republicans do take the House. Should he be?
I think most Americans aren't paying much attention to palace intrigue and what's going on. I know it's the focus of everybody here.
Well, it's a constitutional position.
But most people, the inner battle about who might be in charge. Look, I think the people on the far right really lost this election, and now they want to try to take that over. But it's going to be a very slim margin. Kevin McCarthy's got work to do. There's no question about that.
Thank you, Governor.
Hogan, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. I admire you a lot, even though I'm not, a Republican, but I will say that for the past years that I've known you, I'm definitely not a supporter of GOP, of course. But I admire and respect Governor Hogan, for his service, And I remember when he stood strong against President Trump, when he tried to seize a plane load of COVID supplies the governor had personally acquired from overseas to help his people in Maryland. He was the one that stood against President Trump because President Trump wanted to seize the plane, that was full of COVID supply. That is, the governor brought from overseas to come and supply to us in Maryland. he had the National Guard protect the shipment from federal agents who had recently seized a similar catch from Massachusetts and then Governor Baker. So I would say it is nice to hear Republicans say that they lost, because last election, you remember, they never accepted that the Democrat won the election, especially the presidential election, until they had the January 6th incident. So hearing him say that brought tears of joy to my eye, because it's really nice to see democracy work, especially not in a way that makes fun of him, but respect him, respect GOP, I respect the Republican, and I'm glad those dirty politicians, the dirty Republicans, are finally waking up to it, and they're trying to say, okay, it's time to recognize that we lost, and they just want good candidates to come back to the election, because they accept that most of their candidates were not good enough. You see, that's why they lost the election, and they also accept that Donald Trump was part of the reason why they lost. I mean, at least, you see. And it is very important when the governor says that the Republicans did not swing votes, but they were carrying Republicans who split their vote between GOP and them candidates, So the governor is 100% right when he says the GOP needs a broader approach, not a party that rely on Trump to boost them, and now Trump has disappointed them. So it's high time they start looking elsewhere, So the GOP should think really long and hard, and they will to see how they can foster the party ahead. I think Hogan will be an excellent presidential candidate, because I have seen him up front being a very good governor of Maryland, and that is for sure, And this coming from someone who just voted blue all the way down in the, I think he is a very staunch person that I know that can be a good presidential candidate for the GOP. Okay, and it's just going down like that for now. Okay, and let's listen to some other points of views too.
CBS News is now projecting a Democratic win for Senate candidate Catherine Cortez Masto in Nevada, giving Democrats a majority in the United States Senate, thanks to Vice President Kamala Harris's tie-breaking vote. Quite a week in politics, indeed.
Martha Teichner will start us off. Then David Pogue has a quick study on one ever-changing variable in our political system, in state after state, year after year.
Here's where we are as the midterm vote count drags on and on. The House is still in play, leaning Republican, just barely.
There it is. That's the check mark.
Oh, wow.
Catherine Cortez Masto declared by our decision desk the winner of the Nevada Senate race.
Now that Catherine Cortez Masto has been projected to win in Nevada, and with Mark Kelly's apparent victory in Arizona.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
The Democrats have likely held the Senate. If they win the December runoff between Senator Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker in Georgia, they'll actually pick up a seat.
We're in overtime. That means we got a runoff. Hey, I was built for this.
You have to admit that I did warn y'all that we might be spending Thanksgiving together.
Based on what usually happens in the midterms, inflation worries and Republican expectations.
It's going to be a big red wave no matter what people in the media say.
You're feeling confident,
Take
all
it
right.
to the bank.
Democrats were supposed to lose big.
We're going to see not just a red wave, but a red tsunami.
So what happened to the red wave?
Democrats had a strong night. and we lost fewer seats in the House of Representatives than any Democratic president's first midterm election in the last 40 years.
Perhaps it's best to think of it as all about Dobbs, denialism, and the Donald.
Susan Glasser is a New Yorker staff writer and co-author of The Divider, Trump in the White House.
Democrats made a pretty strong case that Republicans had become a party of extremism. However, I would point out to another factor as well. The political euphemism of the year this year is candidate quality. And really that is just another way of saying that the Republicans ran some pretty bad candidates in some of these key races, many of them supported and pushed by Donald Trump.
Think TV doctor turned Senate candidate Mehmet Oz in Pennsylvania, who lost.
You all in on this?
Well, I think if they win, I should get all the credit, and if they lose,
wow, you can see. So you can see, Trump is saying that if they win, he should get all the credits, but if they lose, they should blame some other person. So that is what he's saying. But now you can see the tsunami that they were expecting, I can't help but remember what Liz Cheney, you remember Liz Cheney, the Republican who was the chair of the January 6th hearing, when she said that there will come a day when Trump is gone, but your disgrace will remain. That's what Liz Cheney said during the hearing. And Larry Hogan has just been saying words similar to this for many years. Especially when it comes to Trump, he was the one most of the time to stand up against Trump's rhetoric, And one of these days, I think Trump will go down in history, and because most of the time you hear him saying that if you win, I take the credit, but if you lose, don't blame me for it. But today, the Republicans are blaming Trump for making them lose the elections. So. This is the midterm elections, and so most of them say they are tired of the bullying tactics of Trump. They said most of the time Trump is encouraging his candidates to have the bullying tactics. So they are mostly tired of these bullying tactics. That is why they lost. So no matter what your word, your action speaks the most about your true value, Honestly, it comes down to candidate quality, because most of the candidates for the Republican did not really have good quality candidates. Irrespective of whether Trump is the cause, the Republicans have been very, very cocky when it comes to their candidates. It didn't work out. So they should accept that, and they should get ready. They should prepare for the next election. I'm really relieved that they have accepted, and I hope that Trump is planning to run for 2024. I don't know if he can win the primary in 2024, but I hope that he can win, and if he want to enter the ticket, good and fine. But Republicans are not really ready for another Trump anytime soon. So, they say they are the future. So it's going to be a different outlook, especially as the GOP are not really willing to continue in that line of Trump, And I project there will be something that will happen then for the GOP. The fear of Trump might be a very big effect on the elections. And I hope that the Republican will prepare hard to come back and really boost the right wing and their media, so that they can send in good quality candidates, because that is what really make them really lost this election. We were expecting them to do very well because we had a lot of issues that came in, but we also mentioned the Roe versus Wade. That was also an issue. The Democrat Party retained the House, the Senate, the majority in the Senate, and which now we see that they have now the majority in the Senate, and that is a good news. and if the Georgia race also coming to be positive for them, then they don't have any. The Republican will just lose for Senate. They will So let's see how it goes. We know the vice president always have one vote in terms of tie when there's a tie. So let's see. We're waiting for the Georgia vote. There was a rerun, and we hope that it's gonna go positive. Okay. So thank you very much, and see you in the next episode. And stay blessed, and God bless you.